Kevin Harvick completes the Brickyard sweep, pole, laps, and victory for his third win in his last 7 starts this season. The 2019 playoffs begin this week in Las Vegas, and we have the latest championship odds, as well as the odds for this week's South Point 400. And we're going to give you our picks for the round of 16, the Final Four, and who will win it all in Homestead. All this and more on Part 2 of Prime Sports NASCAR for this Thursday, the 12th of September, 2019 on the Prime Sports Radio Network. Brought to you by RaceReviewOnline.com, RotoWire.com, and Covers.com. Make sure to visit Covers Experts at experts.covers.com, and you could take 50% off any purchase by using the promo code PRIME50. That's PRIME50. And Eric had an opportunity, first of all, to speak to CJ a little bit earlier, so I've got his analysis and picks, not only for the race, but also for the playoffs. And the playoffs are here, man. This is what we wait for all season long.
Yeah, we're here. We went through 26 races, now 10 more to go, with the final one going to crown the champion. And I think this is as wide open as we've had it in recent years, because we went through the summer months thinking it was going to be 3 drivers fighting for it, and now here we are with looks like Kevin Harvick is going to steal. So we'll see if anybody from him.
All right, let's take a look at the predictions, the playoff predictions, your preseason playoff predictions. Do you remember them?
It's 26 races ago. I do not remember who I chose. I'm assuming I probably took Kyle and Truex and Logano, and my guess would be Harvick is the 4th.
You Kyle and Harvick you had, but you also had Elliott,
Chase. Yeah, I say that. I do think I had Chase
and Keselowski.
There it is.
And your sleeper was the same sleeper that I had and CJ had. And as CJ and I mentioned on the previous show, it just shows you how smart we are, because we all picked
Blaney?
No.
Jones?
I'm not being sarcastic. We were really smart.
Oh. Sleeper. Who did we...
I know it doesn't seem like a sleeper now, but he was a sleeper when the season began.
Was that Hamlin?
Yes, he was.
All right. That makes sense.
Yep. So we all grabbed Denny Hamlin as...
Yeah.
What was that?
I was going to say, now he's making us look smart. So now...
Yes. He was 22-1 to win the championship before the season began.
Wow.
Not bad. Anyway.
Yeah, I think he stuck with those odds. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he did. He was at like 14-1 even just a month ago.
Yeah, he went on that tear, and that's what we were talking, I think, probably about a month ago, how we were shocked that he was still like 12-1 or worse, and now they're finally taking notice. So it paid off taking him when we did, so hopefully he can make us look even better than all the way to Homestead.
Yeah, my preseason Final Four, I had Kyle, Keselowski, Truex, and Blaney, and my champ was Kyle. So I had Kyle, CJ had Keselowski, you had Harvick, and Harvick is the hottest driver right now in the series with his 3rd win in 7 starts. Matter of fact, this week, as far as our futures, where are they? As far as the futures, we all took Harvick. We invested a combined $2,500 on Kevin Harvick this week at 5-1 to win the championship.
Yeah, I think you and I talked about that a couple weeks ago, that we didn't take him a whole lot through the regular season, and like, oh man, if he ever gets hot, we're screwed. And well, he did. So yeah, I think I threw everything at him, everything but the kitchen sink at him this week, just because, I mean, he was 0 for 19, and now he's 3 for the last 7, and I don't see any signs of him slowing down. So now's the time. While he was still 5-1, that's the time to grab him, because if he wins on Sunday, he will be the favorite moving forward, and I think it'd be his championship to lose.
Well, you took Keselowski this week. You had the first pick, so you did go with Keselowski at 5-1. I grabbed Harvick at 5-1. CG went with Kyle at 4-1. So we all took the top 3 drivers this week as far as the odds are concerned, which is unusual. We usually don't go that route, but we did this week. So why Keselowski over Harvick?
Just because he's been running well at Vegas. He won last year in this race. He was second in the spring. It just seems like a good track for him. Since Penske switched to Ford, he hasn't finished worse than 7th in Las Vegas. So the speeds should be there. Ford has won 3 straight races in Vegas, and if I'm not mistaken, 5 of the last 7. So he drives a Ford. He should be up front. He showed a lot of pace in the Brickyard. Granted, he got taken out with that incident with Eric Jones, but I don't put a whole lot of stock in that. He was just going for the win. Jones was going for a little bit of piece of real estate that wasn't there. It took them both out, but the speed is still there. So at 5-1, I just thought, you know what? He started the playoffs with the win last year. Why not do it again this year? And this is one of his better tracks.
Yeah.
So if there's time to go with him, let's try him now. So it's kind of an experiment there over Harvick, but I do think he should be in the running on Sunday.
Yeah, matter of fact, he has a win every other year since 2014. So if he wants to keep that streak alive, Keselowski needs. This is it. This is his shot. So I went with Harvick. He's got 4 top 7s in his last 6 races here at Vegas. He's crashed in those other 2 races, so that's actually a good thing. If he doesn't crash here lately, he's finishing strong. He's got 2 wins in that time frame. He led 88 laps in March from the pole, but didn't win the race, finished 4th, and that was kind of maybe a sign of things to come for most of the first half of the season for Harvick, where he had his moments, but he couldn't close the deal, but now he's closing.
Yeah, that's been a big difference with him. It seemed like his cars, and we talked about this a lot too as the season went on, that as the race progressed, the speed fell off. Him and Ronnie Childers just couldn't get the car dialed in for an entire race. And last Sunday just proved that they can now. I mean, he led 118 of the 160 laps in the Brickyard, and it just was dominant. He had the fastest car all race long. So they figured something out. They've got cars that are capable of winning and lasting throughout the whole race. So as you said, if he doesn't get caught up in an instant, granted last year his tire went down and he went up the track and got into Eric Jones while Jones was leading. If something flukish like that doesn't happen, he's going to be there too. And I wouldn't be shocked if him and Keselowski are sitting there battling for the win in the end.
Kyle Busch, meanwhile, that's CJ's pick. He has just 1 win in 16 attempts at Vegas, and he's only led 24 laps in the last 4 trips to Vegas. He was 3rd in March. He's still going through a spell, though, Kyle. He hasn't won since Pocono.
Yeah, who would have thought back in June, and I wrote about this after the Brickyard, they had Logano, Kyle, and Truex. They won 10 of the first 16 races, and none of them have won since. Kyle's got a 12-race winless drought. Logano's got 11, and Truex at 10. And Kyle, granted, he's been there. He had a pretty quick car last weekend, but the engine blew, so I don't put a ton of stock into and giving a demerit for that per se. But, yeah, it's taken a while since he's won. And in the playoff, in order to keep moving, you've got to start winning. Granted, he's got playoff points. I think he'll be fine in this first round. But if he doesn't start getting out of this soon and hit victory lane, we've seen this happen in the past, especially in playoff situations where he starts pressing, he starts making mistakes, he puts himself in trouble, gets in wrecks, and then he's eliminated. So I'd be curious if granted, he's shown some more maturity as he's gotten older. Does he show that maturity these playoffs? If in Vegas, yeah, he's been decent there. I mean, he's got 3 straight top 7s, but it's going to be hard to beat the Fords. Does he try to press, trying to win? It's his hometown race, or does he just take a solid top 5 and move on to Richmond? Because you don't want to go into the Roval trying to come out of a hole.
Oh.
So right now I'd say he's sitting good to get out of the first round, but it could be a little bit of a fight there in rounds 2 and 3 as these guys get better. The playoff field shrinks and the margin of error gets smaller. So right now I think he's all right, but I don't think necessarily he's a strong pick this week. And just because Toyota we've seen hasn't necessarily shown a lot of speed in Vegas. So I would say a solid top 10 would be a good day for Kyle.
All right. Now, as far as some of those Fords, we talked about Keselowski. Now, Logano is 6-1, so he's another one of those favorites because just like Keselowski, they have both been red hot over the last, 7 or 8 races. He's got 7 straight top 10s at Vegas. 5 of those top 5s are runner-up. He won. He's the winner of the race earlier this year, leading 86 laps. As a matter of fact, he's led 328 laps in 12 races, with 327 of those laps coming in the last 7 races. So that's kind of the reason why I went with their teammate, Blaney, as the sleeper, because Keselowski and Logano are so dialed in here, and Blaney has been fine here as well. He's got 4 top 10s out of 6 tries. Now, he hasn't led laps, but even in Xfinity, he's finished strong here. So at 22-1, I figured this was a no-brainer week for me to take Blaney.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, Blaney had that. I think it was a loose wheel, cut tire. Something happened early in the spring race that he had a good car. So if that just seemed like that time of year where everything that could go wrong for Blaney went wrong for Blaney, and now he seems to be hitting a stride again. I mean, granted he hasn't had a top 5 finish since Watkins Glen, but he's right there. He's another guy that I don't think is going to struggle this round. I think he can easily win this race. He's got Ford package, he's got Penske, his teammates have been good there. As you said, Logano, I expect him to be a good top 5 car. Last week in Indy was his first top 5 since his top 5 in Chicagoland on June 30th, and that was his last top 5 since his win in Michigan. So I just think he needs to start getting consistent runs going again.
I thought he was going to win
good
last
top 5.
week, to be honest with you. I mean, if it wasn't for that fluky situation where Larson brings out the caution and Harvick's on pit road and he gets lucky that he gets to come out, and Blaney was starting to do what Harvick basically did at the end of the race, which was lap the field. I mean, he just took up. Blaney took off, and if that caution did not come out at that time, with Kevin Harvick able to come out first and restart first and then blow everybody else out, I think Blaney would have blew everybody else out.
Yeah, that was the difference, and Blaney even talked about that after the race. Him and Logano, how restarts were. That was going to be the determining factor who wins this race. And we saw, that final restart, Logano hung side by side with Harvick all the way to turn 3, and then Harvick just checked out. Blaney, the restart prior to that, he actually passed Harvick, and he held on. And as you said, that caution doesn't come out with Harvick on pit road. Blaney might cycle into the lead, and we saw how much clean air was king at Indy, that he would have had it. And it just – that's why I went with Harvick. I know we'll talk about here in a bit about my futures that for the championship this year, just because it seems like Jimmy Johnson had these. They always talk about the golden horseshoe, and Harvick had it. It seems like he's got it right now. I mean, what are the odds of you short pitting, hitting pit road, and a caution happen while you're there? I mean, it's fluky, and they talked about that after the race in their press conference, that they got a couple of lucky breaks, and there's just things you can't explain. It just happens, and that's what crowns champions these days, and he's got it. So right now, it's just he's got the hot hand, and they're going to Vegas, and you always talk about riding the hot hand. And so I would say right now he's definitely got the horseshoe unless he gives it up. And we've seen these time again that just once they have something that just seems to run its course all the way through to the championship. So we'll see if they can stay that way for Harvick.
10 races to go, so there's still time. Denny Hamlin, Truex 9-1. But Hamlin has not been good at Vegas. Probably shouldn't even be 9-1 because this is probably the worst track for Denny Hamlin in the entire series. Truex has been okay. He won in 2017, so he's had some pretty good moments, and 9-1's not bad. Jones and Larson are 12-1, but Larson was your sleeper pick, and he has 4 top 10s out of 7 at this track. As a matter of fact, last 4 years, he's been really solid, and he's still putting together a nice run overall since the last couple of months.
Yeah, he's got 5 top 8s in his last 6 still, and I talked to him last Saturday morning. They brought him into media availability, and I was asking about how much do you go, because he was trying to get in the top 10, or he was there trying to stay there, because you get playoff points to finish the top 10 in the regular season, but you also don't want to throw away all this momentum that he's got too. Said that that was their goal, stay in the top 10. And as long as they had a fast race car, it's almost like it was a premonition. If he crashed out, but he had a fast race car, that the momentum wouldn't be lost. It'd be okay. They'd be fine for the playoffs. But if they had a slow race car and they finished 10th to 15th without crashing, then it could take some of that momentum away. And we saw he had a fast race car. I mean, if he doesn't wreck, he's got a top 5 finish at the end of the day. So he comes in with a lot of momentum. He's got 3 top 3s. Yeah, 3 top 3s in his last 4 starts in Vegas. Mm-hmm. He's been right there. We saw what he can do in the Xfinity Series there. So I just feel like if there's anybody that's going to beat those Fords, Kyle Larson could be that guy. I know it's been 71 races, I think, since he's last won. So it could throw all that out going into the playoffs. He's got the hot hand too. So we'll see what he can do. Again, you don't want to come out of Vegas in a hole. That's just everybody. That's kind of the common consensus in the garage last weekend is Vegas scares them in the sense that you don't want to leave on the outside looking in, meaning 13th through 16th in the points, because you've got the Roval at the end of this round. And at that race, nobody knows what to expect still. So leaving Vegas, everybody's going to be aggressive and they're going to want to be in the top 10, which could create late race cautions like we saw last year. And if he can avoid them, I think he's going to be there again for top 5 at the end of the day.
All right. Now, as far as some of the other sleeper long shots, Elliott and Kurt Busch are 18-1. Kurt Busch is CJ's official sleeper of the week. He hasn't done much at this track, but he was 5th in March, leading 23 laps, which was one of the better performances at the track for Kurt Busch over his career. And he's having a good season, of course. Chase Elliott, also at 18-1. He's been pretty solid here, both Cup and Xfinity, as long as he doesn't wreck, which he has done 3 times in the Cup Series.
Yeah, Chase is a guy that I think we saw how good he was last year before getting caught up in that wreck at the end, him and Bowman. But I just don't know if this is the week where he necessarily will shine. One of his better tracks. Kurt scares me a bit. 7 of his last 9 finishes in Vegas, he's finished 20th or worse. Yeah. Granted, that was with a completely different team. I know he's with Chip Ganassi Racing now. Sure. Kyle Larson's teammate. We saw what Larson can do with Chip Ganassi Racing there. So we'll see. I think this weekend will say a lot for Kurt. Granted, I would not be shocked if he won, but also he has one top 5 finish in his last 11 races, and that was when at Kentucky. So we'll see if he can get the momentum, and he's a smart driver too, though. If it's a car that's a 10th place car, he's going to bring it home 10th because, as we just said, right, you don't want to come out of this race in a hole. And right now he's on the good side of being in the top 12. Granted, because that's what we look at past this race is you got to be in the top 12 to advance to the second round. He's there. He wants to stay there. Don't take a 10th place car and try to force the top 5 out of it and put yourself in trouble. So we'll see. I just don't know if I trust him yet this week. He just hasn't been consistent enough top 5, but a top 10, yeah, that would be a solid day for Kurt Busch.
All right. Some of these other deep long shots, anybody worth mentioning, I guess. I mean, Almirola has been solid here over the last 3 races, but he's never let a lap in 12 starts. Suarez might be the one that I would be the most interested in as a deep sleeper at 80-1 because he's been really strong in the Xfinity Series, and he did lead 12 laps in March.
Yeah, Suarez would probably be the one out of them. But again, we've seen this time and time again. The playoff guys, they just get raced different. Nobody wants to take a playoff driver out. Yeah. So I think a playoff guy will probably win. So then you kind of have to slide that edge to Almirola. He hasn't finished worse than 10th in his 3 races since he's joined Stewart-Haas in Vegas. But on the season, that guy hadn't scored a top 5 since Phoenix back in March. He hasn't had a top 10 since Daytona in July. So I don't know if I trust that he's going to magically pull the rabbit out of his hat and win on Sunday. He just needs to get a top 10 because he's one of my guys in the danger zone of not making it past this round. So we'll see what he can do, but I don't put a lot of stock really past like Eric Jones type kind of Kyle Larson, those fringe guys, because I think the favorites are the favorites for a reason. Vegas is a 1.5 mile track. Guys are going to turn the wick up even more on Sunday, so I think your favorites are going to be the guys that are more than likely one of those guys are going to win the race on Sunday afternoon.
By the way,
or evening, I guess.
Yeah, evening. We got 2 evening races coming up over the next 2 weeks Sunday late for I guess it begins in what kind of dusk? Is that what it begins with?
Yeah, it'll be 4:00 Pacific time, 7 Eastern. So it'll start kind of late afternoon there in Vegas and should end under the lights or pretty close to it. I'm not sure what time sunset is out there.
Yeah, that's right.
But they try to do it to get the fans, because last year is in the hundreds. And again, this year I think I looked ahead, and it looks like Sunday's race time temperature is going to be a whopping 102 degrees. Right. So I don't know if it matters that they're starting at 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock. I don't think it's going to cool off in those 3 hours between then.
Okay. By the way, congratulations for kicking ass in fantasy. You took advantage finally as the playoffs began. Again, I got my regular season trophy.
Thank you. I'll take that.
But you're now in the lead as far as the playoffs are concerned. after Kevin Harvick, one of your drivers, got the win, triple points, and Joey Logano, one of your other drivers, finished in second, triple points. So you had your best race of the year at the perfect time to take the lead for the first time this season in our fantasy game. So we still have some ways to go, but of course the points are a lot. What are they? We now have 400 points for the winner, I believe, for the round of 16.
Yep.
So,
that's correct.
Things will get a little exciting there. Okay, now, as far as your round of 16 drivers who are not going to make it to the round of 12. And by the way, just so you know, CJ and I had the same three drivers. We had Boyer, Almirola, and Bowman. The only difference we had was CJ went with Byron out, and I went with Newman out. So who are your four out?
I went Almirola just because, like I said earlier, I don't trust he hasn't had a top 5 finish since Phoenix. He's kind of down there with those guys that don't have a lot of playoff points coming into the playoffs. So right on the bubble. We'll see what he can do in Vegas. But in Richmond's next, he's got one top 5 finish in his last 8. And then, that was Kurt Busch. In Richmond next, he finished 23rd in the spring race, 17th in the spring race last year, 5th in the playoff race. I don't trust that he's going to get a top 5 there either. In the Roval, 19th last year, and his 2 road course starts this year, 9th and 12th. That's not going to get it done. So I've got Almirola being eliminated.
Okay.
I've got the 2 Hendrick guys. I've got Bowman and Byron both being eliminated. Bowman's just struggled, and he hasn't had a top 5 finish since his win in Chicagoland, and that's his only top 5 finish, looking at my notes here, since Kansas second place run. So that's May 11th. So he's got 2 top 5 since May 11th. Again, not going to get the job done. William Byron, 3 top 5s all year, 3 top 10s in his last 8. I just don't think, again, he doesn't have enough playoff points to bank on. I think both of those guys get eliminated. Okay. And my surprise pick, Kurt Busch. I don't think he's going to make it on. I don't know. Again, like I said, I don't trust he'll get a top 5 this weekend. Granted, he could, but his past stats show he's not Vegas, even though being his hometown track's not one of his better tracks. 1 top 5 in his last 8 at Richmond. Again, so if you start off no top 10 Sunday, no top 10 or even a top 5 next week, you're going into the Roval almost facing a must-win. He's got 1 win all year. I don't see how all of a sudden he's going to magically win the Roval. So Kurt Busch is my surprise pick as the first guy out. And I think Ryan Newman skates by and gets into the round of 12.
And you also have Boyer moving on. And he does have 3 straight top 10s, so maybe that kind of momentum he can carry on into the round of 12. Okay, so final 4 picks. CJ went with Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex, and Keselowski. So he did not go with any sleepers in his final 4. So what is your final 4?
I went Logano. Only because, granted, he hasn't won in a while, but he talked about how much momentum that he feels that second place run in he gave him. He just kind of said that the speed's been there. They've had some bad luck, and we saw what he did last year. He's got some good tracks in the playoffs, so I went Logano. Kyle Busch, hard to bet against him. Granted, he's not entering the hottest right now, but it's really hard to bet against Kyle Busch in the playoffs, so I went Kyle. I went his teammate, Denny Hamlin. Hamlin's running really well right now still. I think he'll get a win at Martinsville in the round of 8, and we'll put his name into the championship 4. And, of course, I went Kevin Harvick, just hottest driver in NASCAR right now, 3 wins in his last 7. And he's been really good at a lot of these playoff tracks. He's one of the better guys on the mile and a half this year. We got a 1 in each round coming up. So I think Kevin Harvick's going to make more playoff points, make it to Homestead, and he's my pick to win the
All right, so you're going to go with Harvick to win it all. And I forgot whether or not I asked CJ who his champion was. Now, of course, his preseason was Keselowski. And, again, your preseason pick was to win it all?
Harvick.
So you're going to go sticking with it. Why not? He's hot right now. So,
yep, why not?
Absolutely. And I'm going to go Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick. And I might as well go with my sleeper, Ryan Blaney. I got to throw at least one sleeper into the Final 4. At least I hope so. It would be nice if at least one sleeper can get into the Final 4. So if you had a sleeper to get into the Final 4, who would it be? CJ went with Kurt Busch.
Mine would probably be Larson, just because he as hot as he is, and he's got some good tracks in the playoffs. We see the only thing that scared me about the next round is Talladega. He's not a great super speedway racer, but he's really good at Kansas. So I feel like he can, if he needs to win, and if he hasn't yet, Kansas would be a good track. Then you look at the next round. He's been better at Martinsville. He's really good at Texas, and he's really good at Phoenix. So those could get him by. And we've all said we want to see what Kyle Larson can do at Homestead because that track just suits him for whatever reason. They can try to get the high line running into the championship 4, then everything would change. He would be my pick because I feel like Larson can win Homestead and win the championship. But plus, I also wouldn't mind seeing a guy just completely wreak havoc of the system, not want to race at all, and go to Homestead, finish second, and win the championship. I think that would be kind of funny with this winner go home format, seeing the guy. So I'm kind of rooting on him to do that. But yeah, he would probably be my sleeper out of everybody.
All right. Yeah. If we have somebody win the championship without winning a race, which could happen.
It could.
Wow. I don't know. What do you think they would do?
They would have to make changes, I bet.
Serious changes.
I mean, we saw Ryan Newman almost did that his first year with RCR. He made the playoffs, and he just kept skating by. He made it to the championship 4, and if you remember right, he came off turn 4 and was in second. I think he finished second in the championship that year. Kevin Harvick ended up winning the title because he won the race, but if I'm not mistaken, Ryan Newman was like a top 5 finish, and he never won all year. So I think that would be a Ryan Newman thing to do this year if he somehow in a Roush Fenway car makes it to the championship 4 without winning. It just keeps stage pointing his way there. So we'll see. But I don't know if that is actually going to happen just with the quality of guys in the field. But I think it'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, well, look, we've been very fortunate enough that we've had the winner of Homestead winning the championship every time. So to go from that extreme to another, that would be highly doubtful. Let's get finally to your futures again. I mentioned before that we took 2,500, basically the three of us combined on Kevin Harvick this week. I also went with Kyle Busch as CJ did, and then I went with Truex and Blaney. Those are my 4 future picks this week. And you only went with Harvick, though. So Harvick was your only future championship pick. You put 1,000 on him. When we get to the playoffs, we are allowed to wager whatever we want from $10 to 1,000. You went the max with Harvick at 5-1.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't used them a lot this year, and now it's getting to crunch time. He is, to me, the favorite right now to win the championship. So I don't think a lot of the odds are going to change between this week and next week for some of these guys. So I felt while I can maximize it, let's put it all on Harvick this week because he could win and his odds get better. I don't know if some of these other guys.
No, it's true. Yeah, that's how I felt as well. 5-1's not bad for Kevin Harvick.
No, especially for as hot as if he was 3-1, might be a little bit different. But I feel like that can make a lot of ground up for him later. That if he does win the championship, because the way it was going, if he won, we'd lose money. Right. So it's like let's make some ground up. Right. So yeah, that's why I went with him only this week. Let's try to maximize the plays now that we're getting into the playoffs. Granted, I took some sleepers during the regular season, but now it's go time. Let's see what 4 each week do we feel is going to be the championship 4, and see if it changes and throw some money their way and win some at the end.
All right, now, racereviewonline.com. So how much information do you have in there regarding the playoffs?
Got quite a bit. Posted a lot last night. Got my playoff preview up. I think that was loaded about 9 o'clock last night. But I got each round, who I think is going to be eliminated and why, get it all the way down to the championship 4 in my picks. So that is up right now that for anybody listening that want to take a read. And we'll explain. I know we explained it here on this show for the first round, but I also did the second and third.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, I got that up. And then I also got one up why I feel like the second round may be the more difficult round of the entire playoffs, and kind of a teaser there of why all 12 of those drivers are going to be very could be favorites in that round, and who could struggle where and why. So I broke that down on a separate article because I felt like that round needed to be, it's just because the tracks that are in it and who I believe of the 12 drivers will be in that round and how they fare at those tracks. And it's going to be, I think you could probably see a within 1, 2, 3 point difference between 12th and 13th for that round. And so I explained that in that story too.
All right. And when are you on the road again?
A couple weeks. I got an IndyCar next week for their season finale, and then they'll be all NASCAR from rest of the season.
So 2 more weeks. You'll be where?
Laguna Seca.
Where's that?
Northern California. That'd be their. It's another road course. So yes, that'd be their season finale. Be next Sunday on. And I believe they're on the big network, NBC. So 4 drivers for the championship. Granted, Scott Dixon's probably too far out, but my phone just.
Oh, we almost made it throughout the show.
Almost made it, and then it just vibrated and went off. There we go. So yeah. That'd be their final race, and then it'd be straight NASCAR for the final 8 races from there.
See, we're at exactly 30 minutes and 45 seconds in. Your cell phone said, "Look, I was only commissioned for 30 minutes. Give me a break."
It took off. Yeah, I was getting it looked like a fantasy football update, and it vibrated. So maybe, yeah.
Oh.
So
okay.
Which my team won last week. So yeah, we're good.
You're hot.
I am.
Eric,
everything's going well.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Keep your hot streak going, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Yep. See you next week.
Take care.